Hit start on that. Who else is here? Hey, thanks, Fabster, for the super chat. Always love it when you're here, and thank you for always continuing to support our great show here. You're one of the best, man. Thank you so much. Gorgeous Larry, you are looking stunning tonight. Stunning. Who else we got here? I think Shiny Ray is back, everyone. Steve Stockton, good to see you. And I think we are caught up. We are caught up. There we go. We're going to get going here with the lovely and talented Geraldine Orozco. She has a nice pair of shoes on for tonight. Hey, 416, good to see you. And her hair is done. I've already seen it. She looks marvelous, as per usual. And
thanks, Dave.
Oh, stop. I know you're rolling your eyes at me right now. I can feel it. Feel it. And, we're going to get going here in like 29 seconds. Great way to support this show. Hit that subscribe button if you're brand new to us. And make sure you do a little shopping. Go to facebook.com/the SOR Vault. Give us a thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs sideways. But make sure you hit that subscribe button because eventually we will have something on the air that you actually like. Hi, Kevin. Good to see you. Jose, welcome back, my friend. Here we go in 5 seconds. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. If you want to take a listen to our archives, they are free for you at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. One of our favorite monthly guests is back on Spaced Out Radio. Is joining us near the beginning of each month is Geraldine Orozco for The Spiritual You. Geraldine is an experiencer and someone who now helps counsel people who've had their own experiences, as well as making them healthy on their own end. Geraldine is an experiencer of extraterrestrial contact, hybrid programs, and so much more that she is very open about getting into. She helps counsel those people who've had their own experiences. She helps open up people's consciousness, clearing their minds, bodies, and soul. You can check it all out at GeraldineOrozco.com. Then at the bottom of hour number 3, I will bring you the SOR Newswire, brought to you by Paranoia Magazine. Geraldine Orozco, it is always lovely to have you on the show, my friend. Thank you so much for joining us once again, your second appearance of 2021.
What a blessing to be here, Dave. Thank you so much for having me, and hello to everybody. Happy February.
Hard to believe we're already here.
I can't believe it. It's such a great day today, too. It's the second of the second day of 2021. It's a really good day.
Tell me about it. You know, one of the things that always excites me about a new month is that it's almost like a new year where you feel fresh and anew. And I don't know about your start of 2021, but mine's been pretty good. I'm trying to have a real positive attitude. Now, I could lose some weight. I could. However, I'm working on that. I'm drinking more water. I am now, what's the date today? Today is the
second.
Yeah. So I am officially off. This is 8 months that I've been off Pepsi. And I'll tell you, it still sucks. It still sucks. But I will not quit.
Oh, Dave, I'm so proud of you. That is amazing. Those little tiny changes that we make in life really make a difference in the long term. So I'm so proud of you.
Well, we're working on it. We're working on it. Now for you, we always have people who are listening to this show who may be unfamiliar with you. You are someone who left the corporate world in San Francisco, California to get into the woo a little bit. And I know you don't like that term, but you're someone who left a corporate life to follow your path that you felt you needed to follow, not only for yourself, but your fellow human beings. That had to be a tough choice for you to make.
You know what? It was a choice that was done over an extended period of time, really. I mean, it was truly, it took years. I remember the time that I decided to sell my business. I was an event planner that I started. It was my baby. I started it in my garage. I started from one day to the next when I got outsourced from my company. I was working in a Chinese telecom company. And when I saw an opportunity, I decided to take it. And that was my baby. So I grew that for about 10 years. And we became internationally known for the creative work that I did there. And it was exciting. It was wonderful. But, Dave, there came a moment where I began to realize that the reasons why I chose that career were more self-serving than they were really of service to others. And it's funny how, our personalities are in layers. Oftentimes we think that the choices we make are for others, but it really takes a moment to step back sometimes and question and introspection and taking a look at how we are making those choices. The event planning industry is an extremely competitive field, and from the business aspect, there's a lot of investment. And the idea is that you're keeping up with trends and you're pleasing your clients in order to have them have these lavish parties. And what you realize is that a lot of time these parties that they hold are more to kind of compete with one another rather than focus on the celebration and the gift of life or any kind of valuable, expression from that. And I just became more and more tired with the superficiality of that, and I needed something deeper. But alongside that personal discovery were years of introspection and meditation. And I also own Bay Area Meditation. And that's where I really found that I came to life, is teaching meditation to corporate companies. People that are in the office all day and don't have a moment to learn how to connect with themselves. That's what really brought so much joy and made me feel more fulfilled than, doing these events. So when I made that choice, it was very hard. But once I made the choice, it was the most liberating feeling ever. And, I decided it took a couple years to kind of integrate my experience, because I was making a decision that I'm no longer going to live this kind of double life where one side was the corporate face and the other side was the spiritual ET contact face. And instead, it was like a merge of those two worlds that I was now bringing. It was coming out in the public and discussing contact experience without fear, without any kind of ideas of limitation. So it took a moment.
Do you regret any of that decision to give up that corporate world, that corporate paycheck for what you are doing now? Or is the ability to help people that much more of a pull than any financial gain?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And as a matter of fact, when I chose this career, I think in 2017, when I had my hypnosis, and I began to download this incredible amount of information from like the beginning of time and genetic lineages and hybrids and, the evolution of mankind through history to what we see it today. To me, I mean, my entire reality fell apart, and there was no place for any more of, coming into this hive mind, working in a corporate office anymore. I mean, I was very far away from that. I could not relate to even coming into a sales personality of having to sell something, because I realized from a very certain perspective that, the kind of exchanges that we have in the world today are oftentimes more parasitic than they are promotive of a constructive balance in exchange. And that's in the monetary system, even in education and healthcare. Many different sectors really take on certain, ways of doing business and interacting with society that is actually not so beneficial. And we see that in our everyday families, and our friends that surround us. A lot of people are struggling right now financially. It's hard to pay the bills. People are in constant state of survival. So when you see those things, to me, that's the priority. And what I'm kind of working towards now is trying to create education for people to create building blocks for emotional awareness, and then from there coming into their highest creative power. And now from being a slave of a system, now being truly in charge of themselves as this sovereign human that can now co-create and manifest and not be in constant struggle and suffering. And to me, that's the most important thing. Even if it's just helping someone that is traumatized from something a parent said to them, to move that trauma out of their body, out of their mind, so that they can now go and do the things that they love. That right there is what brings me to life and what gives me purpose, by all means.
So for you, as you move along this spiritual side of everything, connecting with your inner source, your inner soul, your inner self, how does one begin that movement? You've had to do it yourself, but for those out there who are listening saying, look, I need to be doing more with myself. I need to be doing more with this life because it is a finite amount of time and I'm not happy. It could be anything from a sex life to an alien encounter life to just being happy, losing weight, or just finding that inner peace. How does one start that journey?
In the beginning, when I first started meditating, it was very hard for me to detach from the idea that spirituality and my everyday life were two completely separate things. And I guess one of the first questions coming into the spiritual realm, or I don't even want to call it the spiritual realm, just coming into a state of balance in my life, both emotionally and in the way I was doing things and how things were manifesting in my life. It came to a point where I realized that I was experiencing more suffering than I was experiencing more bliss and happiness. And the bliss and happiness really felt more superficial than actually something that was deeply felt and deeply experienced. And my question was, how does one fully experience this kind of bliss that Buddha talks about in his transformation, that all these great masters and these lecturers and leaders in the spiritual society always talk about, coming into this state of unconditional love, this state of self-love. And there really isn't a lot out there to help support that. It really is such a personal journey. So for me, I just got tired of suffering. To put it in very plain words, I got tired of constantly being feeling exhausted and tired and that self-hate. And every time I used to sit down and meditate, all of those emotions would circle back to myself. They would always circle back. It was actually myself I realized that I was upset with. I was upset about myself for not standing up for myself, speaking for myself, making choices that were better for myself. And so when I started to realize, I realized how much power I actually had in making the change. And it's a matter of getting yourself together and sitting down and working those out. And I think that's the best advice I can tell you is like, you need to sit down with the things that are wrong, that that cause you suffering. Is it habits that you do that cause you suffering and sickness and imbalance? Is it certain reactions that you have to triggers that cause yourself pain and cause, your roommates pain or the other people that you live with? Notice that. What are your exchanges? Is it more of a constructive quality of life, or is it just constant survival? So it's difficult because, a lot of times the way things manifest in the universe is a direct reflection of all of our darkness that we've been kind of ignoring. So it just comes to a point that either you reach rock bottom, or it just, you can also gently help yourself and begin to become aware of the things that cause you suffering and start working them from the inside out. So I think it was just a point where I said, okay, you know what? Instead of reading all these books, which I keep hearing the same thing and I'm not hearing any results, I'm going to sit down, do the work, and I want to see. I want to see if what these people are saying is actually real. And it was through that meditation, it was through doing that inner work that I actually finally got results. I started to understand things and things started to clear up for me. And it takes dedication, it takes work.
Speaking of dedication, I got a comment for you from one of our chatters, Neil, in our YouTube chat, who says, your last show with Geraldine really changed my life, Spaced Out Radio. I've dropped alcohol and junk food, picked up jogging, and now have a more positive outlook on life. Thank you.
Oh my God, that is so amazing. What a beautiful compliment, the greatest of all. Thank you so much for your light and for everything that you do, because you are an example for the world. And major shout out to you. Thank you so much.
Hugely. That almost inspires me. Inspires me. I mean, that is really cool. Thank you for sharing that, Neil. Really do appreciate that. Geraldine, there's so much that goes on in this world, whether we want to be, happy with ourselves, happy with others. It really is about taking care of ourselves deep down first, is it not?
It really does. It really does. Because without ourselves, and it's funny because it's kind of contradicting all the programs that we've seen, and I speak for myself when I say, I was raised in America, born and raised here, and going to school, but everything I learned, from entertainment, from the videos and movies and MTVs, when you're growing up, and school, are these ideas, these constant ideas that, if you take care of yourself or if you love yourself, that concept it's so selfish. It feels even narcissistic, but we have got to break away all of these programs of what it really means to be there for yourself. We are a self-sustaining system. If this system falls apart because of toxic habits, everything around us will fall apart. We cause more suffering and pain to ourselves and others. And so that is a state of awareness and consciousness and compassion, more so, for yourself and others, that speaks volumes. And it shows in the quality of your life. It shows in the quality of your energy. You can feel that from people. You can see the resonance. People vibrate when they're aware of themselves. They take care of themselves. You know that they're eating mindfully. This is why I think that meditation is more of a way of life rather than it is something that's a compartmentalized 10-minute practice that you can do in your day. It's throughout your day. Right now, what are you feeling? What are you feeling in your body? Do you have any emotions coming up? Does what I say cause any or trigger any emotions? Why do you feel that way? I mean, these questions, if you ask the right questions, take you down little rabbit holes of a deep, deep healing and transformation. And you don't need to pay a dime to anyone to help you go through that. You can do that on your own just by coming into a state of complete authenticity with yourself and in a very compassionate way. You can really reach that.
I have a little smile on my face because here I am in 0 Celsius or 32 degrees, and you got your heater blasting at 65 degrees Fahrenheit right now. I think that's hilarious.
Oh my gosh. Yes, Dave, it's actually up at 68, but yeah, I'm going to go turn that off in just a minute.
Hold on. Now I have to see what's the temperature in town here. What's the temperature? Because I always like to make Geraldine cold. Well, it is -3 Celsius, so it's pretty warm out. That's 27 degrees Fahrenheit right now.
I don't think I have experienced that in New York one time, but yeah, that's about it.
Oh my goodness. My goodness. Anybody want to cuddle up to Geraldine out there? She's cold this evening. She has a parka on. Do you know what a parka is? Do you call them parkas down there?
Yeah, we call them parkas. Yeah, of course.
Mm-hmm.
I do.
All right, just making sure. I wasn't sure because some of the terminology is different. We call your beanies down there. We call them toques up here.
Toques. Oh, that's actually cuter. I like that word.
Yes, Yes, so that's kind of what we do. Anyways, Geraldine, we got 5 minutes to go before we go to break at the bottom of the hour, and we're going to talk about our physical selves tonight, about a lot of stuff and intimacy, and we're going to go where we've never really gone before. Rated mature tonight. Rated mature. I will say that. But, for you as someone who helps scholar people in learning how to improve themselves, when we think about improving ourselves, we're always about the outside. We're never thinking about the inside. Those Band-Aids that are holding our heart together from years of heartache, or a locked wall around our soul, or anything along those lines. Self-improvement is more than just trimming the fat around the stomach, isn't it?
Of course. I mean, the problem is that we're used to only looking at the external. We're deeply programmed to look at the external. I mean, we see, we're in a capitalist society, in which that means that we think that our solutions to all our problems are purchased and bought or acquired from something outside of us. It's a very, very deep subliminal programming that we have. So, we have to kind of move away from that idea. And I think collectively we're moving away from that in a sense that, the idea is that we are self-sustaining, that we have the ability to grow our own food, to live healthy lives, that our health is in our hands, dependent on how our habits are, what we're eating, what we're thinking, what we're feeling. Really, that's all free, and you're completely in charge of that. So you're not going to find all, the solutions for the problems that you have in your body outside of you. And I mean, there's millions of studies on that in regards to holistic healing, from health food to your mind and your psychological well-being. These are things that they're building blocks of the human well-being. And so we want to look at those things, and we want to see where we're not focusing on, where are we losing our balance in our life, in maintaining balance between work, family relationships, and then your personal time alone. So this is something that we are not discussed. And for the parents out there, I want to ask you, I mean, how many of you have had these conversations with your kids, about looking at, creating an important routine with keeping balance spiritually, mentally, and emotionally? I mean, not a lot of us talk about that. So it's something that we need to think about. And in order to teach someone else, like our children, we have to practice that. We have to live that, and we have to embody that.
Okay, so where does one start?
So the start, I would say, is in a level of awareness, just being aware of where you're at every morning. And this is very simple, right? This is the same technique as training your intuition. We have 5 senses. So throughout your day, ask yourself, what am I hearing? What am I feeling? What am I tasting? What am I seeing? If you can just train yourself to check in with those things like throughout your day, even if it's just 4 or 5 times a day, when you're out shopping, at work, whatever it is that you're doing, bring yourself back into your body. We're going to be able to train ourselves with opening the dialogue we have with the physical body. And you're going to begin to learn a lot about yourself. I just want to ask you to do that 30 days. If you can just see if you can ask yourself 3 times a day for 30 days, check in with your 5 senses. You're going to notice that your level of awareness does dramatic shift. You're going to become aware of how your relationships are, the quality of your relationships, the quality of the food that you eat and how you eat it, the relationship with yourself and your inner dialogue. And you're going to have more awareness of the things that you're doing. And that right there is the first step. And from there, you can start learning what questions to ask yourself now that you're aware of what you're doing.
What amazes me is we got about 45 seconds to go here, is how many people in this world do not tell themselves how much they love themselves.
Mm-hmm.
That
Agreed.
to me is very difficult. And it was probably one of the hardest lessons I had to learn a long time ago.
Yeah, same here, Dave. Same here. And I really want to talk about that tonight because it was life-changing even for the first time I said I love you to myself, I couldn't even say those words. I started to cry when I said that because I didn't even believe it the first time. So if you can imagine that, and I know a lot of people go through that, and I'm going to give you some tips on how to work on that. It's a daily routine. Self-love practice.
Well, let's get into that when we come back from the break here, because we got a lot to talk about tonight with Geraldine Orozco on The Spiritual You. How do you love yourself? How do you learn to love yourself? What do you got to do? Can you look yourself in the mirror, deadpan in the eyes, and tell yourself that you love you? It's hard. Trust me, I've tried. It is very difficult. But once you break that hump, things do get a little bit brighter. We're going to learn more. Geraldine Orozco on The Spiritual You right here on Spaced Out Radio. That's a good start right there. That was a quick half hour.
Beautiful.
Quick half hour.
So, Davey, I'm going to grab a little bit of water and I'll be right back, okay?
You go, girl.
Okay.
Hey, Horror Realm, how you doing, man? Good to have you back. We love you too. Joey Hayes, how you doing? Off the top turnbuckle. That's a good call right there. Good call.
I'm back.
I'm back too. Hi, Ross. How are you? Rooted in lovely sacredness. You like how I extended your name there? Rooted in lovely sacredness. Let's see. Dave Drake. Hey, Dave, just wanted to let you know I am making an album on my main Facebook account dedicated to alien and UFO radio shows, and SOR will be the first added to it. Oh, thanks, man. That's way too kind. Way too kind. I always get sheepish when people do things like that because I'm like, really?
That's amazing.
Really? You want to add old Davey? You want to add old Davey? Really? What would Davey do to deserve that? What did Davey do?
Oh, your shows are so fun. Your shows are amazing.
Mm-hmm. Neil, I do have your question. I will get to that here in a little bit. Okay, bud? So bear with me. Oh, you're amazing. I mean, you're everywhere. Every time I look, you're like somewhere. Sig Sauer, thank you so much for the super chat. Appreciate that. Who else? We got Sig Sauer, our great veteran Surf Jer, Vinster ×2, Fabster ×2. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate the love, man. Really appreciate the love. Yeah, you're everywhere, Geraldine. Like, you have this conglomerate that just, we need Geraldine Orozco, stat. You should be like Dr. Geraldine. Dr. Geraldine.
What does the DR stand for?
The Doctor of Love.
That's what it is. Mm-hmm. That's a good idea. Sure.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yeah, I went there. Yeah.
I love it.
Marty is Marty on Twitter says where he posts a picture of you and I from UFOCon 2018, and where we're standing right in front of the banner, and he goes, "I admit Geraldine's a real cutie, but I think she is actually Dave's virtual girlfriend, and he's not sharing." So I said, "Marty, I'll share the love with you," and you know, he's like, really?
Oh, I love that picture. Thank you so much. Did he take that picture? Marty took
No,
that?
that was I forget who I
Who
got
took that?
to take that picture. I forget who I got.
Someone did. Yeah,
Someone did. Yeah, but it's a good picture.
that's a great one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my hair looks terrible in it. Just so you know, my hair look.
No,
No,
your
it does.
hair never looks
No, it
terrible.
looked terrible there. Looks like I got this giant cone on my head. Honestly,
That's
I
funny.
hate my picture being taken. I do hate it.
Oh, Dave, don't be vain. You look great in
I
all the
fight it.
pictures I've seen.
I fight it. I do. I totally fight it. All right. What was I going to say here? Who else is here? Um, someone
Just
just
stick with us in the next hour. You're going to learn all about self-love, and then you're going to love the pictures that you see. Remember?
exactly. Troy SR71, good to see you. Miss Pickles, good to have you back. Are you sweet pickles tonight, or are you sour pickles? Let us know. Thank you to everyone on the super chats. Thank you to everyone who's given us a thumbs up, thumbs down, and thumbs sideways, and everyone who's hit that subscribe button. Here we go in like 4 seconds. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is underway tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for joining us. I want to remind you that if you missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on with the spiritual you from GeraldineOrozco.com and BayAreaMeditation.com. We have Geraldine coming on in. And Geraldine, right before the break, we were asking about love, loving oneself. And it's a very difficult thing to do because, you know, I remember, and this is a true story. This is going back in the life of Dave here. All right, I'll use me as an example. When I was going through my first separation with my ex-wife, I remember I used to look at a mirror, and every time I made eye contact with myself, I would be absolutely verbally abusive to myself. It was horrible. I would call myself every name under the sun, reminding me each and every day that how much I hated me. You know, I felt like a failure. I felt like I wasn't good enough for anything. And that was a tough way to live. It really was. And then I remember I had to, for about a couple of years, I literally had to make sure I didn't make eye contact. So I was always looking at the side of the mirror, or I was always looking up above. Like if I was doing my hair, I'd focus on my hair, or if I was shaving, I would, focus on my chin or my cheeks or whatever. But the minute I made eye contact, holy cow, it was absolutely verbally abusive. But one day I stopped. I got some counseling, and one day I stopped because I just couldn't do it anymore. I didn't want to hate myself. I mean, is that something that we all have to have an epiphany to in order to stop abusing ourselves?
You know, I think that the wisdom that you experienced to kind of dive deeper into that was incredible. And I think for some of us, it takes a really long time to get to that point. Because, I'd love to ask you, like, how did your journey even begin? I mean, did you start by questioning what love was? Were you noticing that you were missing love in your life? I mean, what is it that really made you realize that you had this dislike for yourself?
Oh, that's an easy question. I felt like a failure. My ex-wife didn't want to be with me. I ruined my kids' home, because of her and I splitting up. It was difficult. And as a man, you want to take care of your family. You want to take care of your loved ones, right?
Yeah,
And
exactly,
her and I just did not work anymore.
Beautiful. And so this is the thing that is so incredible about your life experience. You went through like all this suffering and all of a sudden you decided, this isn't right, the feelings that I'm feeling. And I think a lot of people go through this. This is such a powerful moment, but the thing is, what do you do in that moment when you begin to realize that things are not working in your life? And very few of us begin to question. For me, it was the exact same way. It was these repetitive cyclical patterns of feeling unworthy, feeling unloved, feeling not good enough, needing to find acceptance and love from anyone outside, because I didn't know that the source of love was within myself. I didn't know that. I mean, in my reality, I was not finding that. I looked up to people, and even if you go to lectures to learn about these things, sometimes it doesn't really click until you really begin to question the ideas that you have around love. And so that's something that I really want to invite you this month to take a look at, is what are the ideas that you have around love, and how much of those are fantasy and illusions and unrealistic expectations, and which one of those are actually real and things that can be accounted for, not just by yourself but others, because we tend to have this very one-side view about how love should be exchanged, and we fail to recognize that love is more than just this emotional romantic expression. Love is an exchange that happens, and that there's an opportunity for that exchange within everyone that we come in contact with. And what it is that you completely take complete accountability and awareness of yourself and how you are, whether you're expecting something from others or how you want the quality of that exchange. What I realized is that I had a lot of suppressed anger and resentment towards the main expressions of love in my life. And who were they? Who are they for all of us? It's our parents. We learn how to love from our parents. And of course, our parents are not perfect because they're a product of another lineage of parents that probably also didn't understand what it meant to love themselves either. So we are constantly pushing down these cyclical beliefs of what love should be. And oftentimes they're incomplete. They're skewed because we live in fear, because we're disconnected from ourselves, because we're afraid of vulnerability. And, society doesn't help us with that because we're indoctrinated with concepts of the feminine roles, masculine roles that, are difficult to embody in true balance. We have these ideas of what a mother should be, the ideas of what a father should be. And oftentimes those ideas are not actually taking into consideration real, true, products of what our society has created. We have never felt love. We've never felt love, maybe not even from our parents because they didn't love. They didn't know love either. So then we have all of these stored up expectations based on what we see on the silver screen, based on what we see in other people's houses that are mimicking other ideas of love. And then everything falls apart when we don't find any of those things to be true. So the question is, what is love? Where did you get your ideas of love? And, how much of that is something that you've actually seen in real life? One of the things that I work with my clients on a daily basis, and I ask them, when they go back to their inner child and they begin to look at their relationship with their parents, I ask them, did your parents love themselves? And the answer is always the same. No, they didn't, because they didn't know how to love themselves. You can tell that by the quality of the life that they led, by the choices that they made. A lot of times people come into relationships, they have kids, even if they don't want to have kids, they're not clear about the way that they want to live life. Oftentimes they end up making these quote unquote sacrifices, perceived sacrifices, without really being in alignment with those choices and decisions that cause even more suffering and impact the lives of your child and so on and so forth. So the problem is we don't have this practice of introspection where we're like, take a step back and look at your choice. Who are you going to be affecting with this? So this is kind of like this, it's like a roller coaster here of choices that we make. And it ends up completely coming out of control. It goes out of control because our narrative is that we must be accepted and we must be loved by someone. We think that being accepted is that love. And you're asking the acceptance of someone that also doesn't know love, that also doesn't know how to love themselves. That's a lot to ask, even to ask them to give you ranges of acceptance within yourself. So we have to really, really look at those things and question. And taking responsibility for yourself means that we no longer have these unrealistic expectations from anyone outside of us. And you begin to look inside and you realize that you are your only source of self-love, love in general, and that's where it starts.
Geraldine Orozco is here on Spaced Out Radio tonight with The Spiritual You. Loving oneself, it usually always comes down to intimacy as well. Geraldine.
Intimacy with the self, you mean? So like
in general, with a partner, with, finding love, trying to keep everybody happy, whether it's on a physical front, a sexual front, or even on a friendship level.
Mm-hmm. Well, when we talk about intimacy, it's the ability of being completely vulnerable. Okay, and that's what that means, is to be completely vulnerable. But how many of us have been able to be completely vulnerable with our partner without insecurities and without fears? A lot of us, we build up walls. We even fabricate personas, masks that we're wearing in order to cover our imperfections that we think are unacceptable of ourselves. And it really causes an impact in the relationship that we have, in the quality of connection that we can even build with ourselves and with others. So I think, if we look around, the majority of people around us, we're constantly wearing these masks. So in order to have true authenticity and relationships that end up in a wonderful balance and an intimacy, we have to be willing to be completely vulnerable. And my suggestion is that vulnerability, you practice that vulnerability with yourself first, because that's going to be actually the hardest one. Just like Dave was saying, it was so hard for him to look in the mirror and say, I love you to himself. I experienced the exact same thing. I mean, I couldn't believe it. And I often wonder, how some women spend all this time in front of the mirror. But even in that, even though they're looking at their reflection, they're not actually looking at themselves. And that's a different thing. In my self-love course that I teach on my website, you practice with a mirror in front of you. And I have my students look at themselves into their eyes and observe themselves as if they're looking at someone else. Because when we look at someone else, it's through the eyes that you can actually tell so much. And most people find fear, they find terror, they find anger, resentment, all of these emotions that are deeply suppressed. And it's usually what we see when we look at others. And it's not a matter of judgment. It's literally their energetic expression that we can tap into other people is a combination of everything that they are as a whole. We feel that from other people, and it's what we have a gut feeling that comes up, which tells us whether someone is trustworthy, whether someone is safe. Some people we can feel more open with. So all of that is expressed outwardly, energetically. So have you ever asked yourself, what expression do you give off? Are you someone that feels safe being next to? Are you someone that feels like I can be intimate, connect with you? Ask yourself that question. If you're a man or a woman, what energy do you give off? And when you look in the mirror and you look in your eyes, taking a look at what is that expression that those eyes give off, and it'll tell you. It's a combination of all these experiences you've had in your life that have not been resolved. When I did that journey, I began to look at all the most horrible things that I used to judge myself for. And I worked one by one, healing every single one of them, facing them, being absolutely truthful with myself, even if it was the ugliest thing ever. And that through that process, I learned how to love this self, because otherwise we're in complete denial of truth, and it's impossible to see who you are, or therefore to see who anyone else is.
That's kind of deep. That is actually quite deep. You know, so when you go along that path, okay, normally it always, to use my journey, okay, when I started to love myself, it was easier to love other people. It was easier to let people in. It was easier to bring out the truth, if we could say that. You know, like for instance, if I was having a bad day, I would say to my friends, you know, I'm having a bad day. You know, you get the small talk. Hey, how you doing? Do you really want to know? Because I'm having a crappy day today and I need someone to talk to. Or it would be like, you know, I just feel like I need to go out, or I need to meet someone, or I got to get my life going. I got to get my life back on a roll and get these positive stances going with myself. You know, so is the journey, whether it's physical, sexual, or whatever, is that journey all about baby steps to get to that point where you have that self-confidence back? Or is it about learning as you go? Because knowing us as humans, we're always going to trip on that route.
Yeah, the secret to not tripping and getting lost and wanting to run away, because here's what happens. You know why we trip? We trip because we get stuck. We come to a point where either the emotions that you've been suppressing all your life, the things that you've been ignoring about yourself, are so powerful that you just want to run away in the other direction. You do not want to feel it. And that's what I went through. That's what everyone that goes through this program, this exercise of loving yourself, ends up going through. It's not easy. I'm telling you, it's not for the faint of heart. It's for the brave. Because you're going to have to deal with emotions that you have been trying to suppress. And the funny thing is that because in our society, we're so far away from authentic, true expression and true feeling, sometimes things that we didn't even think affected us, we discover have been affecting us all our lives. It could be something like your mother, when you asked her for some water, looked away. Just that one little thing made you feel worthless and just not good enough, and rejection. And just from that moment forward, anytime a woman didn't pick up your call or doesn't answer, your conversation or flirt or whatever it is, you feel completely worthless. That program came from that one moment. So you would need to go back to that and support that person and look at the different perspectives from that. She probably looked the other way because whatever reason it is, but what did you feel? What did you need in that moment? You needed attention. You needed love. So the bottom line is recognizing that the only one that will provide you with everything that you need at any given time is yourself. That's it. And so when you recognize that, it always comes back to you. And like I say, and we can go really deep into this topic because, I can tell you from multidimensional body how it affects you when you don't embody self-love. It'll affect you physically, emotionally, mentally, on every level, because your body is an expression of that. If you're constant denial, your organs are also in constant denial. The energy that's moving through your body is blocked. It doesn't know in which direction to go. So we end up sick. We end up putting layers on our body. A lot of my clients, I notice that sometimes when my clients are very overweight, we eat more emotionally sometimes to create layers of protection. We want to protect. We want to protect from all of the things because a lot of us are so sensitive, to things, to emotions. We're empathic. So we find ways to protect ourselves, and it can be protected with habits that we take, emotions, ways that we dress, ways that we look. There's so many mechanisms that we utilize to hide our true emotions. So how do you not get blocked and trip up? Is stop being afraid of the truth. Stop being afraid of seeing and feeling true, real emotions. Sometimes we're an escapist race. It's like we always want to run away from these terrible truths. We have to become friends with the truth. So that's the practice, and that's the lifelong journey of learning how to love yourself, is to learn how to be okay with truth every step of the way.
You know what, though? Geraldine, I agree with you, but I'm going to counter that a little bit, if you don't mind, please.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Okay, 20 years ago, when I was going, wasn't even 20 years ago, like 15 years ago when I was going through this, all right, it was easier than today. Well, the way I dealt with it then, I couldn't deal with that now. Mm-hmm. And the reason why I couldn't deal with that now is because today is so much more of a crass society where if you look at someone wrong, if you express a smile to someone, people are making horrible accusations or getting mad or making accusations of anything, and I would be absolutely petrified to be, like, say, for instance, if I was single, I'd be petrified to online date right now. I totally would, because you don't know what the other person is going to do or say anymore. Whereas like 10, 15 years ago, people were more relaxed. We weren't as hyped up because society and politics has got us all hyped up and we're offended by everything now. Do you see where I'm going with that?
Totally. And I can tell you a couple different ways to look at that. The thing is that right now this is one of the examples, the expressions of the kind of transition that we're going through globally. Okay. And it's an expression of our times. It's a result, it's the cause and the effect of everything that we are as a society. For a very long time, we've had, manipulation of ideas to benefit certain specific ways of thinking and doing things in order to create more control. And we are coming to a pinnacle point because of technology, because of our ability to connect with one another, to look at this as kind of one whole organism and kind of begin to question every single angle of this control. And so what's happening is that we're coming into a bit of a moment of we're finding ourselves in all of these different ideas. So it's going to feel like a more profound separation. But the purpose for all of these questions and all of these things that we're doing right now is in order to find ourselves collectively. We're identifying collectively, even though right now we seem so separated. Some of us are on one end of the spectrum, some of us are another. We're practicing and we're living out these questioning of reality in such a profound way. And unlike, years ago, where sometimes we have more of this conformist, mentality where it's like we just have to follow the rules, we have to go with the flow. That's not kind of flying anymore. So we're coming to kind of lift up these kinds of everything from sexuality to, raising up your child, to how you have your family, how you're working in society. Everything is being kind of thrown up in the air. Outside, as above, so below. Everything that happens within is happening outside. So imagine the earth as a physical body. Imagine all the emotions inside this earth body that are happening right now. We are collectively feeling that, and your body right now is going through that same transition. The invitation of these times is to learn how to love yourself. And in that, you identify how to come into this incredible empowerment and creator self. And that means that we're healing. We are really healing that.
Okay.
And if we go deeper into that, right now, the transitional point that we're going through dimensionally, right, is the idea that we're going through, fourth to fifth dimension, so on and so forth. We are accessing a different dimensional plane of the human body. The chakra system is actually dimensional planes. They are our access to dimensional planes. The first, second, and third chakra are the ones that are managed by this system because they can manipulate your sexuality, your emotions, and your fear. This is how we are manipulated. And everything in our society is built in a way to speak to those parts of you, whether it's in order to turn you into a consumer or to make you a slave of the system and you're working and you don't have any other life but that. Okay, I'm simplifying things tremendously. But my point of this is that what we're going through right now is we're moving from these lower chakras into the higher. We're going into the heart space, which is the fourth chakra, the fourth dimension. And that's a heart space. That's unity consciousness. So we are now activating that part of us collectively. So it opens space for healing. It opens space for unity.
And on that note, Geraldine, I'm going to get you to hold on right there because we are going to go to break here at the top of the hour. Geraldine Orozco is with us as she joins us near the beginning of each month for The Spiritual You, where we kind of break down everything from ET contact, hybridization, to finding your Zen and your Chi when it comes to your own personal self. Open up the soul, open up your body, open up your mind, because Geraldine is taking us on a great trip tonight on The Spiritual You. Her website, GeraldineOrozco.com. Make sure you check it on out. We'll be back with more Spaced Out Radio coming up right after this. I'm just going to run my puppies outside. I'll be right back, okay?
All right, Dave. Cool.
Okay.
Me again, Carl. Don't forget to join the Space Travelers Club for just $5 a month. And follow Spaced Out Radio on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Our Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. Our Facebook page is Spaced Out Radio Show. Our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Come woo it up with Spaced Out Radio today. Bye!
Hi, this is Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel where we store all of the SOR show archives for free. And as an added bonus, every 2 weeks I'm posting brand new content on Cryptid Tales, where I will get into some of the spookier legends and folklore from around the world and tell the stories that go with them. Find us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio and check out Cryptid Tales today. Drop a comment and let me know what you want to hear. See you there.
I'm feeling a little spicy tonight. What to do?
Why not get Bumblefuck?
4 million Scoville units of pure hard rock. Bumblefoot hot sauces come in 3 flavors. The burning Bumble. Tone it down a bit with Bumblicious and throw the sauce on everything.
Spice it up. Bumble me, baby. Bumblefoot hot sauce. Get it today at kajans.com.
Are you an experiencer of something strange that can't be explained? Do you want help finding out what's going on? I'm Ryan Stacy, head of the Experiencer Support Association, otherwise known as TESSA. We've teamed up with Spaced Out Radio to investigate cases filled out in the SOR Sightlines report. We are independent and there's no cost to what we do. All we need is your experience. Let's find out what's happening together on the SOR Sightlines report.
We are scouring the world for the most intriguing stories of your day. Take the time to read up on the SOR Newswire, where our team, led by Captain Shirk, will deliver to you some of the best paranormal and supernatural news, along with some stories that will blow your mind from the weird to the wacky. It's the news outside the news that piques interest, and that's what we're looking to deliver to you. The SOR Newswire, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Get your horns up with me on Spaced Out Radio. This is Ron Bumblefoot Thal. Come tune in to SOR where you can hear me rock out with Little Brother Is Watching, the official theme song of Spaced Out Radio. And then come on over to bumblefoot.com where you can find out about my tour schedule, my music, and everything else. Bumblefoot.com keeps you up to date on what I'm doing and the best way to stay in touch with my music and music camps. Sign up for my newsletter at bumblefoot.com and remember, Little Brother Is Watching.
We all know on Spaced Out Radio we love a good beard and mustache, so why not take care of your facial hair with Mighty Moose Beard Oil? Made in Canada, we're taking care of beards and stashes around the world. We use 100% natural ingredients with our oils and balms to make your whiskers feel silky smooth. Use promo code SOR2019 at mightymoosebeard.com today.
The party is always on at the Moose Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is where you want to be when visiting Canada's West Coast. Open until 2 a.m. nightly, the Moose cranks up the rock while serving some of the best rated food in the city. The menu starts at $6.95. Why party anywhere else in Vancouver when the Moose is right there? Get your horns up and rock with the Moose, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
For the price of 1 cup of coffee a month, you can become an SOR Space Traveler. The Space Travelers Club is a place where you can interact with other listeners.
All right, I am back.
Great, I'm here too.
Nice. Nice. I was hoping you would come back.
Okay.
Hey, Justin, how are you? Thanks for joining us. See who else has snuck in here that I haven't seen yet. I think we're good. We've got like 2 minutes.
Okay, perfect.
My dog didn't want to come in. He likes the snow.
Oh, that's so cute.
Yeah.
Does he go jump around in it? They move around in that snow?
He digs his face in and then rubs his face in the snow, and then he gives himself like a face wash. It's kind of cute. Hi, Blackbird Immaculate. Good to have you here. Yeah. Ross Smith, good to have you. Thank you for joining us. It's a good show. Where do you want to go this hour, Geraldine?
I think we're headed in a good direction. We're talking about self-love. I'd really like to talk about the concept of the inner union.
Sure.
So yeah, we can get into that.
Just writing it down. Writing it down. Thank you to Cedric, Kira, Marty, Sig Sauer, Surf Jer, Fapster ×2, Vinster ×2 for all the super chats tonight. You guys are amazing at supporting this show. Hey, Zenzabil, how you doing? Good to have you here. Big thank you to everyone who's hit that thumbs up, thumbs down, and that subscribe button. And we appreciate each and every one of you hanging on out. Remember, you can get your swag at facebook.com/the SOR Vault. Hey there, John Doe. Good to have you back as well. Oh, I forgot. Radio show. Second hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate it. Want to say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free for you by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. What do you got for us tonight, Clam? What do you got for us? Pampiniform. Pampiniform is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on with the spiritual you. Geraldine Orozco joins us once a month from the lovely and warm San Francisco, California. Her website, GeraldineOrozco.com. You can find her at BayAreaMeditation.com or HybridMother.com. She has websites for everything that she does. And Geraldine, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Dave.
Not a problem. Not a problem. We love having you here. I want to get to a quick question from our audience earlier on, and it's about addiction and ET contact. A lot of ET contact people tend to use forms of drugs, whether it's DMT, whether it's ayahuasca, mushrooms, in order to try and create contact. Is this something you recommend or have thought about trying in order to gain that deep understanding of contact?
Well, after my contact experience in 2013, my psychic abilities were super activated. And what that meant was that I had a sensitivity to the multidimensional body, and I could feel what people were feeling emotionally and thinking. And also when they had problems in their body, whether it was physically or energetically. And what I started to notice by using this in teaching meditation and teaching pranic healing and other very deep healing modalities like DNA reprogramming is that there was a trend that when people would come to me and I would see their body of light, instead of being round and oval, I would see that it had a V-shaped opening or a crack coming from the center of the forehead, around the pineal gland and the back of the spine that went all the way up like a V above the head. And it was like what happened is that it was like a missing bit of energy that was open or cracked in that energetic space. And it was impeding their source, this life force energy that runs through the body, through the main cord of life, was being interrupted. It was being blocked. It was fragmented and shocked. And every single one of them were people that had been utilizing DMT or ayahuasca, these kinds of drugs, to enhance their spiritual work. And so I would ask them, I said, well, tell me about this practice. You know, what brought you to that? And they wanted to experience, they wanted to have ET contact, or they wanted to have some kind of powerful understanding of the spiritual realm. And so then they would end up with a vision of that. They would tap in, they would have these incredible experiences. But then after a while, they found it difficult to integrate that experience with their everyday life. And so what I found in my work and my research is that what's happening to a lot of these people that do that is that they create these incredible cracks in the auric field because people are not aware when they go into that practice. And keep in mind that shamans, in order to use this kind of plant medicine, they prepare years, sometimes 10 years, in order to do that. It's a ceremonial thing. And that means that they go through years of purification and strengthening of their light body in order to be able to do this kind of work. Now, it's now become such a major trend that we're seeing groups of 300, 400, 500 people in one room that are taking ayahuasca and having these trips and these experiences. And my personal appearance, by working directly with people that have ended up with entities, with walk-ins, with bipolar issues, with really, really severe psychological issues as a result of this, is that what that experience is that if you don't prepare for it, you can really mess up your energetic body, and it could take a long time to prepare. And it doesn't pay off, because here's the thing. When you experience that, even though your experience can be profound and life-changing, you're looking at a snapshot of this other dimensional plane. But it's the same thing. If you don't go through the experience of practicing and waking up your body through healing, through meditation, through working with the chakras, to becoming aware of the information that's within you, you're not going to be able to link the two. You won't be able to even understand on that level what you're experiencing. So my advice is, do the inner work. I, for example, in my experience, I've gotten to a point where I don't feel called or curious to experience that, because I reach those levels in my meditation. I can achieve these kinds of understanding of the universe and explore in astral travel or in dream time, because I've practiced that. I've trained my body to do that, and everyone can do it. There's nothing special about me. All of these things can be activated. So I really invite you to try that first, and prepare your body. And if you do decide to do that, I really suggest finding a shaman that is promoting really a purification process before you do ayahuasca of at least 5 months before you do that. I really strongly suggest that. But that's my personal opinion.
All right, let's move on here, because you wanted to discuss a topic called concept of inner union. What is this all about?
So before our break, we were talking a little bit about coming into loving relationships, romantic relationships. And we talked about how loving ourselves is kind of like the key foundation in order to do that. We won't be able to love someone else until we love ourselves. And I want to take you through a little view of looking at this from a couple different perspectives. When we come into this three-dimensional plane, it's three-dimensional because the law of creation, which is within every single one of us as either a woman or a man, which is one part of an engine of creation, okay? And within that one part, because everything is self-similar, we're fractals of infinite consciousness, within us is also those two parts, the feminine and masculine we have within our body. The right side is the masculine, the left side is the feminine. When a man and a woman come together, they have the ability of, with that union, creating life. There is no other more powerful creation energy than that ability to create another life. So this is, for us, a wonderful example of the laws of creation in the universe. And we see that in all things. We see that in nature. We see that with animals. We see that with other living organisms, that when they have that unity, when there's that unity of that polarity, there's that balance in that polarity, it creates this spark of life. So how do we become integrated enough to become our manifestation, an engine of manifestation? We sometimes look outside of us for amorous relationships in order to feel complete. We look for partners, sexual partners, romantic partners, in order to feel that love, to feel that connection. So the thing is, how can we pull away from looking outside of ourselves and begin to find unity within? And the idea is to create inner union and inner integration of those two sides. And what happens is that we learn how to embody that union based on our relationship with our parents. So the way that we manage our masculine energy, whether you're a man or a woman, you've learned that from your father. The way that we manage our feminine energy, we learn it from our mother. So if either one of those parties have had really toxic relationships with their parents, they're also going to mimic that. And we are going to cycle through those same programs. We continue to carry out toxic behaviors of ourselves and how we see ourselves in the world. And remember that with our children, this is directly going down to them unless we fix those things. And what I'm talking about is everyday dialogue, everyday reactions, everyday triggers, everyday emotions, everyday perceptions of life. So inner union talks about looking at those imbalances that we have taken on within us and finding a middle point, a center point of balance within them, healing the wounded feminine, healing the wounded masculine. What those manifest as is the masculine, for example, we are very aggressive, we are violent, we are demanding, impatient, things like this. This is an expression. So if you are someone that embodies that kind of expression on a daily basis, it means that you have a wounded masculine and it has to be healed. It has to be nurtured. So the invitation this month is to kind of look at that, look at where we need to find balance within the way that we handle those two energies. This is the law of manifestation. It's the law of attracting money, the perfect partner, so sex, creation, all of these things. If you have that out of whack, you're going to be attracting someone that's on that same vibrational resonance. And that's where chaos starts to happen again. We start living those cyclical patterns of suffering over and over again. So that's what the inner union is about. And from that topic, I'd really love to get into sex. Because as a result of this kind of imbalanced unity and connection, we attract partners based on those concepts of how we see the feminine or masculine. And so what ends up happening is that in our sex life, the exchange is imbalanced. So we're either giving more than we're receiving energetically, or, and this can happen either in the bedroom or in your everyday relationship. So look at that. Look at what's happening in your relationships, and you begin to notice where there are little weak spots and what needs to be addressed.
It's called children, Geraldine. Children. But you know what, though? For a lot of people, we add up these nickel and dimes, okay, that really upset us over the years. And instead of talking it out and letting it go, we decide that the grass is greener on the other side because, we are always looking for something better. It's much like social media on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, where we're only posting good pictures of ourselves. We're not posting that ugly picture that has celery between our teeth. You know what I'm saying? We've created this genre that it's always better on the other side. I mean, look, well over 55% of marriages end in divorce these days. I mean, and we always say, man, I wish I would have married the second person, first. Well, it would have ended up in divorce anyways. So what's the point? But I mean, how do we conceptualize, what is good and what is bad anymore when we look at everything as the grass is greener on the other side?
Mm-hmm. Well, just that's great. The example that you gave, 50% of divorces, marriages end up in divorce. That's the same percentage of the number of humans on this planet that are divorced from themselves. I mean, most of us, we walk around completely half full. We see ourselves as half full. And in order to fill up that empty space, again, it goes earlier to our conversation today, we're afraid of truth. We have a hard time looking at ourselves, looking at how we affect, we're in denial. A lot of time it's difficult for us to see our roles in those relationships really truly from a very, third person perspective where we can be neutral, not necessarily judgmental, just fully aware of all the parts of ourselves that are, out of balance. And again, that's a choice. Like we have to make the choice to go down the path of truth and understand ourselves fully without any resistance, any denial. And it isn't until we're ready to do that we can find ourselves. Because you said it yourself, we're looking at what's outside. The grass is greener, looks prettier, much nicer, funner over there. But what we're looking for in all of those moments is love. This is what humans are looking for. We're looking for love. We're looking to be wanted, accepted, seen, acknowledged. And when we don't find it in one place, because we're asking a person that has never had that experience in their life to give it to us, of course, we're going to go look somewhere else. But how can we even recognize who is going to be able to give that to us if we don't even know what that is? We have to walk through the exercise of understanding, beginning to learn how to recognize what it means, how it feels to choose healthier things in our life. There's a birthing process. There's a death process that goes through that choice, believe it or not. You reach for those cookies, and in that moment you stop and you say, you know what, if I eat that, I could really hurt my liver because I keep eating all these really fatty things that are not good for me. So in that moment, the part of you that is desiring this sweet thing to cover for whatever emotion you're feeling that feels unsatisfied has to die for a moment. It has to die. And from there has to birth this awareness that if you go eat, I don't know, a carrot or an apple, it's more constructive for yourself. And when you do that, you're like, yes, I'm choosing something that's better for me. How does this feel? Maybe there's temporary resistance, but it's more true, it's more real. So we have to learn how to be okay with those constant deaths and births of those experiences. And it's something that we're very uncomfortable with,
Okay. But here's another thing too, and this question always comes up, is monogamy. Mm-hmm. Are humans meant for monogamous relationships? Because so many times we're always looking. I mean, let's just be honest and frank here. Whether you're a man or a woman or whatever you decide to call yourself because you're a great human being, we're always looking at somebody who is wearing a fancy dress or lingerie pictures or in a catalog or the on television or firefighter calendars or whatever it may be. We're always fed with the sexual desires that we have. And up until a couple of hundred years ago, monogamy wasn't a thing until the church kind of brought it out and said, no, you got to be stuck with this person for the rest of your life, whether you're happy or not. And that's just the way it is. And that's the way it's stayed. And we've kind of morphed into that. So is monogamy the issue, or is it people's brains today that is the issue?
Well, that is a fantastic question. And I think really is the need of the human that desires to be fulfilled by something else. I mean, if they're with a partner, and now we have all these open relationships that are becoming so popular. If you're with a partner in a marriage, for example, now it's open, so you can go and, have sex with other people. The question is, like, are both of those people really, truly, authentically, completely feeling complete in that relationship in which they feel like they want to do that with one another? And that's really the question. If we're constantly feeling empty and unfulfilled, we're always going to be looking outside for something better. And the thing is, like, to me, that's the bigger problem. I don't necessarily believe in monogamy because, I feel that, we are ever evolving individuals. I feel that, we're always transitioning and moving. And I think that, oftentimes partners that are constantly evolving, if another person doesn't want to evolve at that same rate, you can't impose on their free will. I believe that we're here for experience, and every individual organism that's here on this planet is here to experience, and that's it. And the reason why I think that is because I don't believe that we're here just only to procreate. That's the thing. If we were here solely to procreate, I would say I believe in monogamy, because in order to create just this home, just this, safe, balanced environment, yes, I would say yes, please be monogamous for your children, so they understand that they have the support and the these two female masculine aspects of themselves. But the truth is that we're not really here. I think that's a program that, again, it was put in by a lot of different systems that said that we have to get married, that we have to follow these certain rules. We are here to experience and to constantly evolve. We are infinite consciousness, becoming aware of itself through all possibilities. And if you are in a partnership that becomes ridiculously toxic with someone that's not moving at the same pace, the most compassionate thing to do sometimes is to let them go so that they can go at their own pace, And this really brings into question our definition of love again. What is love? Is love to stick with that person, or is love to let them go? So we need to redefine all of these old ideas, because a lot of these old concepts, I don't even want to say old, because it's not even a matter of time. It's a matter of implementation of specific ideas for the result of a very controlled system of our expression. And that's the problem. Do we want to live by this kind of limited control way of thinking, or do we want to understand this expansive that's benefit to the well-being of the organism, which is to create balance, health, well-being, vitality?
So in other words, the dolphins have it right. The dolphins.
That's true. The dolphins are very free for, having these non-monogamous relationships, and they express that. But I really truly think that humans are these incredible engines of creation. And when we think of creation, we only think of procreation. We only think of children. When we talk about procreation, I wish that more of us would look at it as this incredible, expansive expression of creation energy, which means health, well-being, and balance, not just to yourself, but as an example of unconditional self-love to all things around you that learn from you. You become a powerhouse of well-being, of support. This is where unity consciousness is born. It's born from these individual beings that love themselves enough to be this, literally a powerhouse of light that brings example to others.
Okay. So if we're supposed to act like dolphins, why aren't more people acting like dolphins? As we got about a minute.
This is great. I think that more people are not questioning. They're not having these really serious questions about what society is, what our role here is in society. Procreation can advance the human race, but to what end? Are we having that question? Is it an egoic, self-serving thing to have children, or who are we serving with this? That's the thing that I'd like people to question.
Well,
yes.
I think Howard hits the nail on the head. It's called half. Geraldine. It's called half. Okay.
Half?
Divorce court equals half, and that's the big one right there. Yes, I really do believe that. I think Howard answered every question that I have for the next hour that we have you tonight, Geraldine, with the word half. All right. So, Geraldine, I'm going to get you to hold on right there because we are going to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. Are you someone who does not want half? Maybe monogamy isn't for you as we open up the sexy vault here on Spaced Out Radio with Geraldine Orozco's The Spiritual You. GeraldineOrozco.com is her website. We'll be back right after this. I immediately thought of Eddie Murphy's Raw, where he talks about having to give up half. Oh, that is so true.
It's hilarious, but yes, so true.
That is so true. Oh, my goodness. My goodness. Let's see.
Well done.
No, but seriously, though, monogamy sucks. It really does. It really does.
It's interesting.
I can honestly say that if things ended with my partner, I don't think I would get in another relationship.
Mm-hmm. I hear this every time.
I really do not think, because, not just for the sexual advantages of that you get with it, but just the fact that half, that's a lot. That's a lot. But no, seriously, it just seems like it's getting more and more difficult. It's getting more and more difficult out there to find that spiritual connection that you have, but to be on the same page with yourself and your partner as well, or you're the one you were courting or whatever it may be. That's hard. It's hard.
Well, it's a lot to ask from another human being that is also has their own challenges and their personal journey. I mean, who are you to demand to have this person be exactly on the same page? I mean, in order to be a loving relationship, it really has to be a level of love and understanding of yourself so that you won't have to put that other person on that level. It's a lot to ask. And I see that it's changing in the world around us. We see more of these open relationships which I don't necessarily think is the answer, necessarily. But it kind of speaks to something that, it's like we're breaking up these ideas of union and marriage that we've been kind of indoctrinated for such a long time,
I just don't want to end up with a house full of cats. That's it.
Okay. All right.
Hey, Gary Brunton, welcome to the show. But, no, that's what it comes down to. I just don't want to end up in a house full of cats.
Yeah.
I
wouldn't mind. I'm okay with that, I think.
But you know what the hard part about it is, though? To be blunt. Mm-hmm. To be absolutely blunt. Most people who, when we finally say that we have enough, I mean, usually we get divorced around our 30s or 40s, and then you find someone else, you settle down with them, maybe that works out, maybe it doesn't, but it's got to be hard, when you look back at your life and you're looking at all these attractive people around the world, and you're like, I'm 62, like I'm going to be 48 this year, and
wow.
and trust me, I'm a good-looking 48. Good-looking 48.
Yes, you are.
And,
yes, I agree.
But it would absolutely suck being 48 years old and trying to, where do you start? Where do you begin, Because you're still kind of young enough to be attracted to, the 30-year-olds, but there's that 18-year gap. and you don't think of yourself as old enough to be dating, say, somebody who's in their 60s, even though you're closer to them, I wouldn't even know where to start.
Yeah, it's hard. I think, I mean, in the virtual world that we live in now, it's becoming harder and harder too. And I think that it's going to be very interesting to see what happens in the next couple of years in the dating world. To see how people manage that connection. But again, like, I really think that our focus has to change. It's not about finding that partner anymore like that. I think it's on a different level. And I really also strongly believe that our resonance would attract us to the right partner. If you're doing something that you're passionate about, you find someone that's in that field and so on and so forth. The way I look at relationships now is more like, a power team to get stuff done. That's kind of how I look at it, but that's a personal, idea about it.
True. All right. We got less than a minute here.
Okay.
Less than a minute. I have a direction that I want to go here, so just bear with me.
Sure.
Our free archive.
Mind you, we got like 20 seconds. I blew that one. But that's okay. That's okay. Thank you to everybody on the Super Chats, including Cedric, Kira, UFO Garage, Vinster, Fapster, Surf Jair, and, hold on, guys. Here we go. Put that there. We pass the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much to join us. Want to remind you that if you miss portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including Rockin' Out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on with Geraldine Orozco's The Spiritual You. We're talking sex, love, relationships, monogamy. It's a different path for the spirit, but it is good and cleansing for the soul. Geraldine's website is GeraldineOrozco.com. Geraldine, welcome back.
Hey, thanks so much.
All right. Fantasy. This is the big one here, because right before the break we were talking about monogamy, whether it's still good to have that in today's society, which there's the good points and the bad points, but a lot of relationships, a lot of loving, caring relationships always fall on a couple of things: money and sex in a relationship. Those are the two things that cause the most arguments in any relationship. For a man, ours is usually about fantasy, what we're not getting. We're not getting the sexiness. We're not getting the I hate to use this term, but the pornographic fill that you'd get on watching adult movies or anything along those lines. So there is a real, I don't know how it is for women. Maybe women are the same way too, and I could be completely wrong. But for men, it's about that fantasy that when we look at our loved one or our life partner or whatever it is, we're like, oh, man, they've let themselves go. They didn't even, give me a kiss goodnight or whatever. And we start building up this major fantasy in our brain that we all want to experience that maybe we haven't. And I see that being a big problem through all of this.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't necessarily think that it really has anything to do specifically with either of those topics. And here's why. Whether it's the sex or the money or, the relationship. It's, again, we have to go back to the core reason why we're having these problems. We're talking about insatisfaction. We're not satisfied with what we currently have. And if you break those all of those long laundry list of dissatisfactions that you have with whatever it is, we are, you know, I want to say we are culture of, we are programmed to have easy and immediate access to satisfaction. And that's a problem. And that's a fantasy. It's unrealistic. And the reason why it's unrealistic, because the way that we've been taught that we can achieve that satisfaction is false. It's based on, again, illusion. We have an idea of what satisfaction is. It's a constructed fantasy that doesn't exist in reality. We're looking at things like porn. We're looking at things like these movies, like these ideas of success, of what's sold to us as a perfect family, of being rich and wealthy, of not being in a state of survival and how to get there, is all fantasy. It's all an illusion. None of that is real, but we keep running after that as if we're in a hamster wheel trying to achieve these things that are not reality. So what we would like to do, and what I invite everyone to do, is to go through this process of a wake-up call, to look at the difference between truth, reality, and false fantasy, and step away from those things that are, because the reason why we need those kinds of things is that, again, you're dissatisfied. And it's not that you're dissatisfied with those false illusions. You're also dissatisfied with the inability to provide any kind of fulfillment for yourself that you haven't taken the time to create in yourself. You know, we haven't had that conversation. I mean, do you even know what it is that really makes you feel loved? Have we had that conversation with ourselves? And that can be life-changing, because you realize that you begin to question, who's going to be able to give me that love that for me means that I'm loved? You know, it's tall order. And the thing is that we're putting all these expectations on people that are just as much of a half, like he was saying, as we are. We are also a half. We're half empty. We need to become full. And when we become full, we have discovered how to fulfill ourselves. None of those other things matter. When you become full, you come into alignment with what you're supposed to be doing. You come into your career. You begin to manifest money. You begin to manifest the relationships that are quality and in alignment with a new way of being. And this isn't a fantasy. I mean, this is the way I live my life. I've chosen to live my life that way. And I experience less suffering in this state of complete authenticity and truth with what I'm doing and why I'm doing it than when I was in denial and living a fantasy life. You know, so we have to deconstruct from all of this. And it's very sad. Like, sometimes I watch these the commercials for these shows, and it's like these reality TVs are completely, you know, these shows are based on such extreme fantasy and fake. And our children are watching that. They're growing up with these ideas that are false. They're the same ideas that you and I grew up with. And we had to work through, we had to break through them to find the truth. What we need in our society is more examples of that truth and how to live that. You know, so that's the advice. I mean, we as adults, as parents, you know, we need to hold that example, because otherwise our kids are going to go through that same consistent suffering and searching for fulfillment their entire life that we've experienced in ours.
Okay, but you could say that's a product of society. I mean, all you have to do is look at reality television, where you don't sit there like Nirvana or Metallica and bang away at music in your garage from the time you suck as a teenager until the time you are filling out, 20, 30,000 seat stadiums or arenas. You go on stage, you sing a song, and all of a sudden they're going to tell you whether you're a star or not. I mean, that's the reality of what's going on. And, we see so much of this instantaneous success rather than having to work for it, that I don't think the younger generations from the 30 on down crowd fully comprehend that there are things that you need to work for. And that includes relationships.
Right. And and the work begins with you. It begins with us, with our ability to work through our suffering, our pain, doing that heavy, dark work that we want to run away from, feeling those ugly, yucky emotions that we've been running away from all our lives. And Another thing is that I'm noticing that a lot of the children that are being born at this time, though, and a lot of teenagers, I mean, they are these incredibly advanced children. I mean, they really are. And they are kind of falling now behind all of that. They no longer want to prescribe. They see that and they recognize how foolish, how ridiculous it is. And this is what's so exciting about the kids that are coming in right now. These are, hybrid kids, and we can, go deeper into that topic as well. But I mean, the race is beginning to filter out all of this kind of behavior. We're kind of at the tail end of it. The new generation that's coming in is really looking towards the health of the collective, looking at the health of the world, health of well-being of one another, of each other, and of ourselves. That's where our focus has to be, and we have to do everything possible to, speak to that. Of course, it starts with you. But these children, when I see my younger cousins, I'm so incredibly in love with the fact that they go to university, they spend time in nature. They yearn for that. They do yearn for that. They don't want to be in front of the TV anymore. Sometimes it's our fault, sometimes because we're so busy with our lives, we give our kids our little phone or a tablet or a TV. And that's something that we have to break patterns from in order to create more organic connection with one another. So I think things are changing, Dave. Things are changing, and I really hope so.
Is it spiritual belief that drives a wedge in between these relationships as well? Because somebody may be on a path to opening up and finding whom they are, where another may still be quite enclosed?
Absolutely. And this is one of the reasons when I work with my clients, the number one reason why people fall apart is because their values of what's important in their life is not matching anymore. I mean, if your values of your spiritual work, for example, if you want to go deeper into that spiritual work, but your partner isn't ready for that, it's going to be a constant trigger for them because probably, as in resonance, we attract partners that are a match to us. So our subconscious programming for the beliefs and emotions that we're constantly living and repeating throughout our lives is a complement to our partner. And how we learn, how we heal each other as these halves is by making those come up in everyday life, triggering them as much as possible until one of those two partners decides to heal it. And so the idea is that in these conscious partnerships, both of you together work through each one of these things that keep coming up. And that is what a conscious relationship would look like. Both people are choosing to be their best selves at every given time. But there are very few of those, right? And so the person no longer wants to continue moving. Maybe they're stuck. Maybe they don't know how to deal with it. Maybe they feel triggered. They're too much in pain, too much in suffering, and they just can't move forward. So this is where the break comes. And the thing is, like, do you live a life of constant triggering one another, or do you separate? What's the most compassionate thing? I mean, and that's really just up to the couple and the individual person. And sometimes, these things are really hard. They cause a lot of suffering. But what I notice in my practice, in my work, is that if you take those partners back to the very beginning of that relationship, and if you ask them honestly and seriously, what was your gut feeling with this relationship? They knew since the beginning of that relationship what was the trigger point, and they chose to ignore it. They chose to look behind all of those things and just continue moving, because a lot of times we take precedence over our desires, our sexual desires, the illusions that we have, the fantasies that we have, all of these ideas of a relationship. We take precedence in our choices in life instead of looking at the real root important things in relationships. Our society is upside down, so we have to change that. So next time you guys out there are looking for a relationship, notice that, are you really choosing from a place? And that's how you choose from fear as opposed to love. That's a perfect example. You're choosing fantasy, immediate gratification, sex, desire. That's actually coming from fear, because those desires are coming from a fear of not having, a fear of needing immediately, a fear of fulfilling something as quick as possible. If you made the choice from love, you would love yourself enough to be calm and say, I'm seeing with my eyes wide open all of these problems. And even though I see them, I consciously choose to move forward with that relationship. The tone of that relationship will be a million times different than the other one. See? So it really just, it begins there.
Okay. But it all still ties together, though. You have to love yourself before you can love someone else.
Exactly. And that's where we bring it home, where in that moment when you're choosing to unify yourself with someone else, are you looking through this myopic view of not being enough and needing immediate satisfaction instead of complete love and awareness? That's what it means to love yourself, to make choices that are the best for your well-being, body, mind, and soul. That means you know your faults, you know your triggers, you know your suffering and your pain, and you find someone that can be compatible with that in a way where you're the most compassionate to yourself and the other person, instead of pushing that pain, pushing that constantly, because that's what we end up doing, believe it or not. We end up partnering with people that will trigger that because they themselves have also not learned that part that you're learning. That's how we match ourselves. And on a bigger picture, Dave, I just want to take it one step bigger. This is also how we come into our family lineages. When we are choosing what body to incarnate into, we choose our families based on the lessons that we need to learn. It's the same function. It's the same mechanism of unity that happens, the opposites attracting. That's what that means. And it's as above, so below. It's a fractal, which means self-similar, right? We're experiencing self-similar patterns in our unions, in our collective families, in our relationships, and in the universe. We are experiencing these self-similar patterns of union. So once we understand that pattern, we understand what it means when we come into union and when it means when we come into union with another person. We have to learn those patterns.
But the instant bliss is the drug. That's the devil. That's the one we're trying to fight.
That's very interesting that you brought that up, because here's the thing. There have been so many studies about the power of bliss, the power of the orgasm, that organic creation, that spark of life. Now, the human body operates best when it's in a moment of bliss. There have been studies where people have been hooked up to machines, made to have an orgasm, and they charted out everything that happened. The body comes into this incredible well-being, and everything is working in unison with one another within the organism. Okay, so, but it's not about the orgasm. It's about the chemicals that are released within the body. And so if we can learn to trigger and stimulate those kinds of chemicals in the body that create health and well-being within us, this is how you bring the body into a state of well-being, health. Your immune system powers up, and you begin to activate other superpowers, like, for example, your intuition and other things like this. Okay, this is the power of bliss. And so this is why people, create like these organite, which is based on the idea of orgone energy, which we find in nature. And nature is the perfect example of balance, of this kind of incredible balance and unity of this feminine masculine duality. We have that in our body, and the way to bring that into balance is by addressing the negative and positive aspects of ourselves, becoming aware of all of those and integrating them.
Couple questions from Jim. Question 1, what if you don't have time to wait until you love yourself?
Well, here's the thing. If you don't have time to wait, you're... here's the law of incarnation, okay? The laws of these organisms that we're here experiencing on Earth. When we come in and we incarnate into this body, we're here to experience all possibilities. So you have a choice. You have the free will to choose either to experience love or fear. And that's what it comes down to. So the question is your life going to be based on experiencing fear, or is your life going to be based on experiencing love? And at the end of this life, whatever your vibrational frequency is at, wherever you're at the end of all those experiences, will designate the next journey, because you will be a vibrational resonance to the next potential experience. And this is one of your fractals of infinite fractals that you're made up of. So it really just depends on you. And there is no right and wrong, right? So you can choose to live a life of not finding that self-love, but it's also going to design what you're going to experience. You're manifesting from that place. Core beliefs are built from that rejection of the self. When an organism rejects itself, it becomes cancerous to itself, because it doesn't love itself. It doesn't want itself. And so the only natural end result of that is destruction, ultimately. And oftentimes it's illness, it's suffering, it's pain. All kinds of things manifest in the body. And so if we look at the world around us, unfortunately, we see more of that than we see of vital health, well-being, powerful people. We want to make a shift from that. I mean, if you want to, right? There's free will. You can choose one or the other. But this is the invitation, and what this information is for, is to make that choice.
All right. His second question is, what about compatibility then?
Okay. But again, the compatibility, in order to be compatible, everything that you are is a result of everything that you've experienced, known, and learned in your life. So if you agree with all the things that you've experienced in your life, even if they were painful, suffering, all these things, if you're okay with being a product of all those things, is what I should say, you will find a match that matches those experiences and that will continue to live through that, because that's where your level of consciousness is. That's where you're at. You're a product of that experience. When you begin to work on yourself and begin to help yourself through the process of self-love, you begin to change those programs. You're changing the vibrational frequency. You're building new neural pathways in the brain. Your entire organism is functioning at a different level. So you are now a match for something different. So then compatibility comes in when you're, either one of those things. You're going to be a match to either one of those things. So the thing is that we always attract opportunities to help us expand the most. And oftentimes those connections might be very difficult. They're going to take you through to the next potential greatest expansion of your soul. And that can be a very traumatic experience, or it can be a pleasant one. So it just really depends on you, how you want to experience things.
Okay. This leads to Cherie's question. Have you ever felt divine source bliss and an explosion of light when hugging your divine complement? Fireworks just from a hug.
You know what? That's such a beautiful question. When I was taken on board the craft in 2013, at the end of the experience, after they showed me all these things, I found myself floating in a rainbow nebula, and you'll see it in a lot of my website stuff. And for the first time in my life, I experienced this incredible unity to absolutely everything, but at the same time, a sense of complete disconnect. It was the first time that I recognized the 0 point, which meant that I didn't have any codependent expectations or relationships from people around me. It was just myself connected to everything. And that's when I started to recognize what it felt like to come into unconditional love. This was the most powerful, expansive, blissful moment. And I always tried to bring myself back to that. That was the first time that I experienced that in my entire life. And if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have been able to recreate it. It's what I try to recreate now every day, And it's beautiful that you mentioned the divine unity or hug, but what I'd like to invite you is to, you be that provider of that incredible hug, like hug yourself. And feel that incredible love and union to yourself in all things. You have that available to you here and now.
Geraldine, we have about 45 seconds with you before we got to go to break at the top of the hour. So with that divine you, is that manifested, or is that something that is already grown inside of us?
The divine you, which is, what that is complete awareness and truth, complete awareness and authenticity. Everything that you are and everything that you aren't. That's what it is. And it's you. So there's a moment of discovery that has to occur in order to achieve that moment, but it's within you. It's available to you through you, basically.
Awesome. Geraldine, I'm going to get you to hold on right there because we are going to go to break at the top of the hour. Geraldine Orozco's The Spiritual You happens near the beginning of each month on Spaced Out Radio, and we absolutely love it when she is here. She's one of our most popular guests that we have month in and month out, and you can find her on our websites, BayAreaMeditation.com, GeraldineOrozco.com, and HybridMother.com. We'll continue with audience questions and see where the rest goes, as we have Geraldine for another 30 minutes on Spaced Out Radio before we join Shane and The Shift in Vancouver. Take care. We'll be right back. All right, we're clear. I'm just going to run my puppies out, okay? We got 6 minutes.
Okay, I'll be right back.
See tonight, what to do.
Why not get bumblefuck?
4 million Scoville units of pure hard rock. Bumblefoot hot sauces come in 3 flavors. The burning bumble, tone it down a bit with Bumblicious, and throw the sauce on everything.
Spice it up. Bumble me, baby. Bumblefoot hot sauce. Get it today at kajans.com.
Hello, space travelers. It's me again, Carl. Don't forget to join the Space Travelers Club for just $5 a month. And follow Spaced Out Radio on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Our Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. Our Facebook page is Spaced Out Radio Show. Our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Come woo it up with Spaced Out Radio today. Bye!
The SOR Vault is open for business, and do we have some cool swag for you to pick up? All you have to do is head over to our website and click on the SOR Vault. You have a variety of cool logos to choose from, and put them on anything you want. T-shirts, hoodies, hats, coffee mugs, you name it, we can get it to you. So do your shopping by supporting the store you love. Get your Spaced Out Radio swag at the SOR Vault today.
Hey, space travelers, this is John Resig, founder of the Chive and Chive Charities. If you know anything about our website, you'd know we like to do things a little differently. We're not some faceless organization collecting money for a nebulous cause. Our donor dollars go directly toward life-improving items. Then we give those items directly to an underdog who needs it most. To become a donor with Spaced Out Radio's official charity, Chive Charities, just go to chivecharities.org/donate.
We're adding to the entertainment online for Spaced Out Radio. I'm Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out Cryptid Tales, where I will take you on a journey into some of the strangest legends and lore from around the world, relaying the stories to you of the strange creatures and experiences that people have had throughout time. You can find Cryptid Tales at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio, and while you're there, don't forget to check out our free archives and leave a comment. See you there.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
For the price of 1 cup of coffee a month, you can become an SOR Space Traveler. The Space Travelers Club is a place where you can interact with other listeners, either live during the show or on our great forum. We want your stories, pictures, comments, and ideas. You'll get live video streams, exclusive content, and be a part of our newsletter. Stay in touch with everything SOR. The Space Travelers Club is just $5 a month at spacedoutradio.com.
Hello everyone, this is Ryan Stacy from the Experiencer Support Association, otherwise known as TESSA. We're glad to team up with Spaced Out Radio to help investigate your experiences on the SOR Sightlines report. Together, we'll investigate the strange sightings and occurrences you've had. We're looking for answers just like you. So fill out a Sightlines report on the Spaced Out Radio website and let's figure out what's going on together.
The party is always on at the Moose Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is where you want to be when visiting Canada's West Coast. Open until 2 a.m. nightly, the Moose cranks up the rock while serving some of the best rated food in the city. The menu starts at $6.95. Why party anywhere else in Vancouver when the Moose is right there? Get your horns up and rock with the Moose, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
All right, we got 2 minutes left. 2 minutes.
Perfect. I'm here.
Me too.
Yay.
Me too. Hey, New York Andrew, how you doing, man? Excuse me. I like Andrew's comment. I can have 16 wives, 4 richer, 4 poorer, 4 better, 4 worse. That's awesome. Hi, Bombshell Bomber. All right. We've got about just over a minute and a quarter here. Vinster, I did not ask your question. Please retype it. Good night, Miss Pickles. Mm-hmm. 1 minute. Thank you to everyone in the Super Chat tonight. Really do appreciate the love and support you have for this show. Thank you to everyone new who hit that subscribe button and the thumbs up, thumbs down. Remember, you can shop for your Spaced Out Radio gear by going to facebook.com/the SOR Vault. Here we go with hour 3.
Contact us at...
I lied. We got like 30 seconds.
Okay.
Screws me up. Screws me up. Well, we've never gone down this road before, Geraldine. Ever.
I'm surprised we haven't gone down here. It's such an important topic, but it's good to talk about it.
Cool. All
Since
right.
Valentine's Day is around the corner.
Hold on.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate everyone listening in on our terrestrial radio stations across North America, digitally on KPNL, Revolution Radio, and TalkStream Live. All of our archives are free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club, Pampiniform. Pampiniform is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on with an intimate version of the spiritual you tonight with Geraldine Orozco from BayAreaMeditation.com, GeraldineOrozco.com. Geraldine, welcome back.
Hey, happy to be here.
Oh, not a problem. We kind of like having you here. That's why we bring you in once a month to go over our Zen and our Chi. And apparently our sexuality tonight, which is a little bit off base from what we normally do, but I think it's kind of cool that we've opened up this door.
Yeah, super love it.
All right. Love, intimacy, how we find that spiritual fulfillment out of ourselves, out of each other, out of our partners. is it about dating? Is it about finding those little sparks that, when you look at that someone that you see, especially if you've been with them forever, okay? How do you go back and try and find what made you happy so many years ago?
That's a great question. And I think that what we want to look at, because remember, like back then, we were also a different person. We had different ideas, different expectations. So then, do we really want to look at them with those same eyes again? We have learned so much. We have grown so much since that moment, hopefully, through our life experiences. And really, we're constantly evolving. And I think it would help us to look at ourselves more like this constantly evolving organism as opposed to just this human that's going from one experience to the next. What that'll help us do is that we have to see them with ourselves now, and so hopefully we're doing that from our most authentic self and the part of us that has taken the time to learn ourselves. In the spiritual work that I do and that I teach, I really recognize that I change constantly all the time. And as we know, this is the one thing that's the constant in our reality is constant change. It would do us more realistic and it would be better if we were to look at things in those eyes instead of trying to look back at the past or things that we used to love about that person. If we're constantly rediscovering them, if we're constantly seeing them for what they are now, noticing where we are in that moment, I think that would be assisting the longevity of a relationship. That's honoring truth, honoring what is real here and now. And that's the healthiest way to be. That's the healthiest way to be in alignment with yourself and with this other person.
Is that real, though?
Yeah. That's the thing. We're so used to fantasies and ideas of the past. And the thing is that it becomes intimidating because sometimes we know that we're not going to find what we used to see. We know that we actually maybe even fell out of love with that person, But the thing is, like, seeing them as more of a light, of a being, of this soul, rather than just this physical body with all of their imperfections, their good things and their bad things. Because when we look at people like that, we're applying meaning to those things, and it's only our meaning. So that's actually, it's a selfish thing to do because we're only looking at them from our eyes. We're not looking at them from their personal experiences, their struggles, and everything that they've gone through. So we have to stop being so self-serving. And, that's a kind of a death that has to happen where we're parting ways from this very capricious egoic self that wants to have satisfaction and immediate enjoyment in that moment. We have to shift from that. We have to evolve. And this is something that we're being called to do individually and collectively. As you can see in the world around us, a lot of things are dissolving so that we begin to build things from the ground up. And the idea is that now we're not being more self-serving. We want to build things from a place that's more conscious of one another and the well-being of one another, the well-being of the whole organism. And that goes for relationships as much as it goes for our entire world.
Okay, but what happens when sexual contact becomes a chore?
Well, then that shouldn't be happening. That's the thing. And let me tell you something about sex that really, really important. And I'm glad we got to this point. Energetically, an energetic exchange and the creation of energy that is created by two humans coming together as one is so incredibly powerful. But it magnifies whatever it is that these two individuals are. And when they come into that union, it magnifies the good and it magnifies the bad. So take a look at that. If the majority of the relationship is based on your root chakra of survival and fear, and second chakra of sexuality, of desire, of passion, of feeling unworthy and insecurity, jealousy, when you come into union, even though you might have a temporary release, what you're creating in that moment is actually more destructive than it is constructive, because you are amplifying complete denial of yourself and, each other, that union. So remember that. And what that causes at the end of the day is that a lot of times in the relationships, because they're out of balance, one person ends up absorbing more than the other. You take on all their basically garbage, all the stuff that they haven't resolved within themselves. You take it on yourself, and so this happens in these kinds of sexual exchanges a lot. And so people come to me to have that cleared. They have sometimes people have a lot of different partners, and they're not aware of their energy. They're not even aware why they're doing that. They just all of a sudden want to have a quick, fix for a moment. And they end up carrying all this junk from someone else. They end up going through depression. Some people end up manifesting some kind of illness. So we got to be aware of that. These things that are happening in the world, like these diseases, like these imbalances, like these social problems that we have when it comes to sex, are a direct result of these imbalanced connections, these imbalanced and incomplete unions that are exchanging at a lower level. So we have to recognize that and look at our part. In our union, it's probably better to try to take a moment to have a moment of authenticity and true intimacy with another person, which has nothing to do with sexuality, in order to create unity. It could be just sitting at a table, looking in their eyes and having a direct conversation about things without hiding, without masking, without playing games, without manipulating. That is true authenticity, and it's intimacy. How many of us can do that? How many of us can sit in silence with our partner without feeling uncomfortable? A lot of times we have these pools, like we feel like we have to give something or we have to take something. That is a complete expression of an imbalanced exchange between the relationship. So if you guys are experiencing this and then you take it to the bedroom, what are you guys creating? Do you realize the expression that's being manifested there? So these are things that, through understanding the human body and what happens in the physical and non-physical, we become aware of. And we have to stop closing our eyes, because it's like we want to pull the wool over the eyes and not see these things. But this is why we end up having such tremendous imbalanced relationships.
How do you switch things up? A lot of people try different things. Different unions, different toys, different openness.
Once again, when it comes to, we're talking about two separate things. We're talking about pleasure and we're talking about authentic union, right? So, in order to really come into an authentic union, which will be far more satisfactory, or satisfying, than whatever toys or fantasies or costumes or whatever it is that you guys do in the bedrooms, in order to get a kick out of it. That will be very fleeting. It will be temporary, and you will never be fulfilled with that. That's the problem. And even though you can talk yourself into thinking that, yes, that will fulfill you, if you were to have one night with someone that you're completely, truly in love with, truly authentic, truly in that union, it would completely change the game for a lot of people. So, my advice is to question that. Do you want to have this fleeting temporary enjoyment, or do you want to go through something that's more lasting and more creative for yourself? Because it affects the body. It's not just something that happens externally. This is something that's affecting your physical body as well. And we end up having all kinds of imbalances within the body. And a lot of things that happen with sex especially is that we end up going into depression, because the body is basically being manipulated by the endorphins that are running through the chemistry of the body, and we're addicted to a high. It's like a drug, right? We're addicted to that temporary high that we can never create again until we get to that next high. And so we create all kinds of things to get us back to that high, and things go out of hand. So what the human is looking for in that high What is that high? It is that love that we're looking for. I just muted myself. We're actually looking for that love. So why not give yourself that love and then see what sex is like?
Sounds way too complicated. Way too complicated.
You see, the thing is that we think it's complicated because there is some work that has to be done. But can you imagine when you do that work and you end up on the other side? I mean, imagine the love that you would make with someone at that level. I mean, that is what dreams are actually made of. That's what all of these movies are talking about. You know, they're pretending, they're selling things a certain way, but what they're actually talking about is this incredible bliss that us poor humans really haven't learned how to get to. So the invitation is educate yourself, get to that point, and have that incredible love that's available.
You play a lot of Barry White around your house, don't you?
I don't.
Oh, I think you do.
Oh, no.
Totally. Have a nice fire going in the gas fireplace, Barry White on in the background.
I haven't heard Barry White in about, let's say, 7 years. That's the last time I heard about Barry White.
Well, you know, I mean, when there is romance in the air, Barry White is always there. That's just the way. Let's see here. Jim has a quick question. Can you have a relationship with an alien in your dreams?
I have met a few of my clients that have been participants in the hybridization program, and also some that haven't necessarily been in the hybridization program that have experienced that. In the hybridization program, there is a union that's done within other experiencers as well. You know, other abductees that are taken and made to have these unions. So there could be that relationship. However, I tend to be a little careful with those things because sometimes those emotions that you feel in those experiences are induced in order to carry out an end role, right? Or, fabricated. So I just put a word of caution to just be really aware when you're, having those experiences, to kind of dig a little deeper and take a look at what is involved in that, But I have heard, I have one of my clients that has had, believes she's had a kind of very deep emotions exchanged with someone in that contact experience.
Very cool. Very cool. I got to ask you, as we got time winding down, we only have about 7 minutes to go here. With the hybridization program, what happens if you connect with someone, another human being, let's say, while being taken by extraterrestrials?
If you connect, yeah. And actually that does happen. It's happened to me, actually. I've seen another contactee, abductee that was there on craft, and at a later time remembered that connection. And when I saw the person, all those memories came back, and they also came back for that other person. And this is a person that we've never met before, just in that experience. So it does happen. And I mean, the thing is that a lot of times, especially when other abductees unite together, like, for example, in some of these conferences, these UFO conferences, it's happened before that they're taken as a group, or they're taken together, or they have these experiences that are collective. And I think the reason for that is that a couple of them, I mean, they might be connecting to this subconscious realm where they are used to entering in those dimensional planes. And so it's a perfect opportunity, since they are all together, to be taken into some of these experiences. I've also experienced going to a support group and meeting a person that I've never met before, but when I saw them, I recognized them. And when I asked them about their experiences, we recognized that we had been on a craft before. That was pretty powerful. And I've heard this from some of my clients as well when they come to my support group. Some people have met each other from craft. So I guess the people that remember and have recollection of their experiences, through through recovery of those memories, whether it's through hypnosis or through their own personal, discovery, you can sometimes identify some of these relationships, and it really speaks to the experience that's happening.
Very true. Very true. But what happens if you don't meet that person on this side of the plane? It's always in an astral or an extraterrestrial type area.
Yeah, I think that's definitely, it's the same. You have this experience outside, and maybe they're not even from this dimension or this earth plane. They might be from another dimension or another race. It's very interesting because it really speaks to the levels of dimensionality that we take part in. When we astral travel, sometimes we go into other dimensional planes, which we connect with other beings. And so we have to remember that everyone that we interconnect with, we are one. Again, we are one. Even if it's another dimensional plane, they are a fractal of our own self. So we're experiencing things in the earth plane physically, and we're also experiencing other things in the astral plane in dream time. Those are other planes that we visit, that we are a part of, that we are existing in simultaneously. So they are a reflection of us, and we have those collective experiences. Now, there's so much behind that, the mechanics of that, I don't have the time to explain. But from a perspective of DNA, as a holographic storage system of this massive information, we are a match to that particular person. And so more often than not, this being, you'll probably encounter them in other times, or maybe you've encountered them in other lives because they're a vibrational match to your genetic code, in other words. So that's why you would experience time with them.
Okay. In that scenario, who's pulling the strings on that one? Is it the human hybrids themselves, or is it the aliens?
Well, I like to take it even bigger. I think that this is how consciousness comes together with one another. Because of its design of being this fractal self-similar expression, it combines itself within its self-similar groupings. As humans on this earth, we're here experiencing something very specific together at this time. If you go to another planet, they're experiencing something very specific at this time. If you zoom it out to the universe, we have galaxies that have grouped together based on vibrational frequency, and we see that even within our physical body. The way that the cells organize in the body are grouped together through specific systems, right? That they carry out certain directives in the body for that creative process. So we are a part of a giant engine of creation.
Interesting way to look at that. We have about 2.5 minutes left with you tonight, and a powerful show tonight, Geraldine. A powerful show that has gone off in so many different directions that we really haven't touched on with you. What's the importance of keeping an open mind and an open flow with everything? It doesn't matter whether it's cleansing your soul, whether it's meditation, whether it's sexuality, whether it's ET contact. How do we maintain that balance?
I think the idea is to look at things more as you are experiencing all possibilities. And in that, don't take my word for everything that I'm telling you. You go out and experience and explore things on your own and see what's true for you. Because each one of us is one piece of a puzzle of understanding how we are working and functioning together as a collective. So what I need is to learn from you. I learn from people every single day, every single moment. I learn from your experiences. And this is how we grow. We're constantly learning and educating ourselves on what's best for the total whole organism. And the only way that we can understand or have an idea, even a preliminary idea of what's good or what's acceptable, is when we see vitality, growth, creation. So let's try to choose things that are creative, that are in that state of vitality, of well-being, of balance. That's our highest expression, individually and collectively.
Let everybody know what you have coming up here and how they can get a hold of you.
Absolutely. Tomorrow I'm going to be hosting a course on divine union at higherhealing.com. Please do check that out. It's a platform for healers and holistic healing that can connect themselves with patients and seekers all around the world. And I'm also going to be speaking at the Human Origins Conference March 25th to the 26th. And I will be hosting my retreat, a 0-point retreat on my birthday weekend, actually, on the 19th of this month to the 21st. So I invite you to come and celebrate my birthday with me as we learn, we do yoga, we connect with my friend Zane Daniel in learning how to come into the 0-point, body, mind, and soul. I hope to see you there.
That's awesome. That is absolutely awesome. And this is a show that flew on by tonight, Geraldine, and I want to say thank you once again for being part of Spaced Out Radio and the Spiritual You, which happens near the beginning of each month here. You are a very, very special person to us and our listeners, and we absolutely love you. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here. Love you so much. Thank you for your work, and thank you for all our beautiful listeners. All my love, and I'll see you next month.
Absolutely. Geraldine Orozco, everybody. You can find her at BayAreaMeditation.com, GeraldineOrozco.com, and HybridMother.com. We'll talk to her near the beginning of March. Coming up next, we're going to join Shane and the Shift in Vancouver. Then we got the Newswire and the Thought of the Day. Spaced Out Radio continues right after this. Great job.
Davey, thank you so much. What a great show. I had so much fun with you guys.
Oh, we love you. We love you.
All right. Well, I'll be in touch with our stuff that we're working on. I'll see you soon.
All right. We'll talk soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Love her. Love her. All right. We're going to try something different tonight with the shift here. I don't know if you're going to be able to hear this. So let me just do this. I don't know. This is so new. I go through this every time. Should be able to hear them.
Hey, buddy, test 1, 2, 2, 2, 2.
If you like it hot.
Hey, how you doing? Good. That's good hair, man. Good hair. Thank you, buddy. Thank you. I'm trying to keep up with Shane. Hey, I got you guys on audio here. Yeah. Yeah, through Zoom. Oh, okay. Okay, call me right back then. One second, guys. We're just trying to get connected. Mr. Cowley with an awesome super chat. All right. We're going to go audio this way then?
Yes, we are. Yes.
Okay. Look at Shane's beard. Look how lovely that is.
I know. It's luscious.
Mm-hmm. Your hair
Very
looks
luscious.
great, Shane.
All right, Dave. Again, we've got everything good here, and thanks for joining us on the call here.
Oh, no worries.
All right, we'll just going at the usual time, I guess. And we will talk very shortly. Although I'm sure you can talk to these guys still. But yeah.
Yeah. Perfect.
Right. Hold tight here.
Flights to Vancouver Island and back. From early morning to evening, fly between Vancouver Harbor and Victoria.
Here, we'll shut that down so that way we can't hear them. And where are we here? Oh, we got like 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Oh, hold on. Move you over here. Mr. Cowley, welcome back to the show. Oh, Mr. Cowley, Super Chat Spaced Out Radio. There we go. Okay, we got 1 minute, guys. We've rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Really do appreciate it. I want to remind you that if you've missed most of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. We're going to head to Vancouver right now where we join Shane and the Shift. And we're actually doing this on Zoom tonight with Shane for my audience. I'll tell you, he's got a great beard, everyone. Fantastic beard. Fantastic.
Well, last time we talked about it, your beard was not that big. And it was also not that white. So I don't know if you were using some just for men before or what, but it looks good, buddy.
Put a pointy hat on me, and I look like your prototypical springtime garden gnome. It's the way it is.
I like it. But such are the times where we all grow out the facial hair and do the things and spend some time sitting at home. SpacedOutRadio.com is where you can check out Dave's show and The Shift. Check out ours as well across Canada as we connect the two shows together. Dave, where are we going today? I heard a rumor that we were going ghosties today, that you had a bit of a story to share with us about the ghosties.
Well, you know what? Here's where I figured we would go. Because remember last week we were talking about Robert Bigelow conducting that life after death study. And yet we have a lot of people out there who try and communicate with ghosts. So here I am thinking, how could we combine the two? Because the UFO world has been kind of boring, and we've kind of beat that one to death for a while. So I figured, you know what? Let's talk about how we could communicate with ghosts. Dun, dun, dun. And you know what, Shane?
I like this.
Let's start off with the everlasting, the ever-powerful, and the ever-controversial Ouija board.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay, I've never used one. My experience of the Ouija board would be the movies and the Hollywood, which is ironic that you say that, people trying to talk to the dead. My experience around this stuff has been with myself and other people that the dead are trying to talk to us. And so it's interesting how it kind of goes both ways here when we talk about it like that. So tell me about the Ouija board. I'm a skeptic because it's a hands-on human thing, but the reality is I'm open to listening because my experience around the ghosties has always been surprising. So.
Well, a lot of people believe it's not the board, it's the planchette that is haunted, so to speak, if we put it in that terms. So basically, you lightly put your fingers on the planchette. You get more than one person because you never want to do it alone, because just in case something attaches to you and you just can't shake it, that's never a good thing. Never a good thing. But what the experience is with that is people believe for the last couple hundred years that you could have a seance with a Ouija board and communicate with spirits from the other side. It wasn't until the 20th century where the Ouija board actually became this demonic possession that talks to everything that is buried in hell, from Beelzebub himself all the way to your ex-mother-in-law. Right? So, I mean, that's something that we have to also remind people. So, the funny part about it is, even in the paranormal world, there is this great debate on whether or not a Ouija board is evil or not. Yet we see people using tarot cards, we see people using tea leaves, we see people using pendulums that swing in directions when you're supposed to be communicating with spirit. We see people using other instances. So a lot of ghost hunters will use what they call a ghost box, which believes that you can hear through the white noise of FM radio signals. If you spin those really fast, like we used to back in the 70s and 80s when we still had dials on our radios in the car, they feel that you can actually hear ghosts speaking in between that white noise and communicating with you. So there are a number of ways. I think the Ouija board gets a bad rap. However, because most people don't close the board and say good night and goodbye to the spirits, that sometimes it leaves that door open. It's just like when you live in the wilderness, you leave the door open, there's a chance that something's going to come in that you do not want.
So, okay, fair enough. Is the Ouija board just itself like some sort of crazy portal thing, or are we talking about, because I would imagine this, and maybe I'm just way too analytical about this, Dave, but I imagine this being something like when we get present and we connect, that's how we start to, listen to the things that are already there. So that to me seems like a common thread through tea leaves, for example. Someone who reads tea leaves, you pour the tea, you swish it around, you toss it out, you read the tea leaves in the cup. And it seems to me like it's not so much the tea leaves, but it's the person who stops, gets connected to what's going on, and then just listens. Or am I just looking at this way too rainbows and unicorns?
Well, no, I think you're right on path with that. But the Ouija board, you could say the same thing. Pendulums, you could say the same thing. Ghost boxes, you could say the same thing. I mean, it's just a form of communication that we just haven't been able to put onto a phone app yet. Even though the phone apps do have ghost hunting gears, we just can't dial up and connect. I mean, we're still in a rotary dial situation here when it comes to communicating with the dead. And for the young folk, that's an old school phone out there, that you have to 7, 3, 9.
Well, nobody dials the ghosts with zeros in their phone number.
Exactly.
Right?
But I could tell you a really weird Ouija board experience that we had once. We were over at a friend's house, and they lived in a 2-bedroom cabin-style home out in the backwoods of Mission, British Columbia. And they had a wood stove right beside their kitchen table. Now, that wood stove, because it was a warm summer day, hadn't been lit since that morning to kind of heat up the house a little bit. Pardon me, it was fall, not summer, it was fall. And so here we were on the Ouija board, about 6 feet from the actual fireplace. And it's like 10:30 at night. Where all of a sudden my friend who owns the house turns and looks and says, "Who started the fire?" Well, what do you mean? And we all looked at the fireplace, and there's fire burning in the wood stove. And we all looked at each other. It wasn't me. You know, it's not my house. I'm not going to start a fire in someone's house in their fireplace unless I was asked. And we all denied that it was happening. And all of a sudden, a couple of us still had our fingers on the planchette while we're actually going through this, trying to figure out who lit the fire. And it was so weird because the planchette actually started moving in circles. So the lady of the house, she goes, "Hold on a second. Was that you, spirit, who lit the fire?" Goes straight to yes. And when we asked why, it spelled out, "I was cold." Now, if that doesn't give you goosebumps, I don't know.
It does. I got a text here from Glenn. It says Ouija board is only a vessel to which spirits can communicate with you. Eventually, it will stop needing the use of the Ouija board and will talk directly to your mind. I personally have had bad experiences with the Ouija board and will never allow it in my house.
That can happen, and it can freak people out. However, if it's like a phone call, if you forget to hang up, usually it will not affect you. But for some who are connected out there, who take it that extra step and make that almost psychic connection, you don't need a Ouija board. You don't need anything. You can use your mind. You can use a pendulum. You can, what they call automatic writing, where you just take a pen and you close your eyes and you write whatever comes in your mind. I mean, there's a number of ways to communicate. It doesn't always have to be through the board, but it isn't a scary tool. I mean, let's face it. In the United States, think about this, people. In the United States, it is legal at 8 years old to play on a Ouija board, but Kinder Surprise are illegal.
Right. That's a very good point. Although the fact that it is a law is weird. That's for sure. So, hey, pendulum, tarot cards. So I'm gonna apply the logic brain to this, and then I'll get you to sort of bounce it, okay?
Sure.
So pendulums, my understanding on pendulums is that the pendulum behaves differently than normally what you would see. So that to me would be some sort of interference, if you will, excuse the easy word, with the pendulum. A tarot card is a game of chance. And so that would be that you are either prompted to pull that card or the cards are organized in that manner, kismet, if you will, fate, in order to be able to be pulled that way so the communication comes across incredibly clear the way that it was intended to come across. So one seems to be a little bit of a change in the behavior. One becomes sort of a situation of chance, fate, belief system, whatever. So I guess my question is that those two seem incredibly different. How do those ones impact, sort of your story around connecting with the ghosty people here?
I don't know.
You want me that you're breaking out tarot
you want to pull? You want to pull a card? Is that what you want to do?
Yeah, I would love to. Can you do this over a Zoom call? Because I would love to do it.
Sure. What the heck? Let's give it a try.
Yeah.
Let's give it a try.
I don't know. How do I do? Like, do I pick like a number and then you just pull the card number?
Sometimes they just jump out of the deck.
All right.
So when you're shuffling, they sometimes jump out of the deck. So what do we want to know here, Mr. Shane? Because I got two cards. I haven't really looked at them. What do you want to know?
Okay.
Let's get a little spooky.
Well, I've never done this before, so what kind of questions would I ask? Would I would I say something like, who are the ghosts around me right now? Or would I say, am I on the right path today with my career? Like what?
All right, let's do the career one. Let's do the career one. Your beard says yes, by the way. Your beard says yes. All right. Well, it is Good News Tuesday, so your beard is looking immaculate. All right. Card number one that came out. Let's see what this says. It's the Two of Raphael. So you got some powerful love happening there with a bright sun. So it says, two hearts dedicated to creating something wonderful. Kindred spirits, don't give up on those you love. So the people around you. What that actually means towards radio, I have no idea. No idea. All right, next one. Leap of faith. Right there. That would be the Archangel Metatron at 0. Believe in yourself. Listen to your heart. Do what gives you joy. There is your radio card. Because radio is fun. Let's be honest with you. You know, we're pseudo-celebrities. We get treated like celebrity, but we sure aren't paid like celebrities. But it is fun. It is fun. So that's why we got to keep going with it. That's why we got to keep going.
Oh, no, this is cool. I like this. Okay, so there's a good example of things now. Immediately, there's meaning to me that comes into that, for example, right? You know, like I've got a new partner in Ryan here on the show. You know, I've always had Maddie around. I'm a stand for love. It says it on all my social media right there. That's a big thing for me on the show is for the listeners, agree or disagree, that we're going to love one another. And so there's meaning behind it. That feels all right. So would we just leave that there, or what would we do?
Well, I mean, a lot of times, like, I don't really read a lot of cards. I just kind of have these because they're cool in my studio. You know, I just need some haunted objects here. That would be really cool, but my house is haunted enough. But I would say this, okay? I would say this. I have read cards, and I've had cards read for me that are really potent and powerful. I've also had people read cards for me where I look at the person like they have 3 eyes and 2 noses. So, I mean, it really all depends what kind of psychic translation you are getting from the cards. A person who can really read cards isn't really looking at you. They're studying the card. Like, if I'm doing a card reading for someone, I want the question to be as vague as possible because I want the card to tell the story. You know what I'm saying? And anybody who says different, well, that's just their way of doing things. I may not agree with that, but I don't want to look at the person. I don't want to study the person because, you know what? I don't want their emotions or their little poker tells to tell me whether I'm on the right path or not. You know? So I don't even usually look at people. I'm reading the card, and the card is telling me, if I'm reading cards, what it should feel or what I should say. And you get that from going deep into your own emotion, your own soul, your own body, your own mind. And that's where it gets a little, you know, it sounds a little woo. It totally sounds a little woo, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you get someone who no matter what you say, they're not going to believe what you said anyways, and they're not going to confirm or deny. And that is pretty much it. I mean, but like I said, you can use anything. You know, you can use anything in regards to whatever you want to read. Like I said, Ouija boards aren't evil. That's just a media misconception and a religious misconception. You know, pendulums are weird. They're fun, but they're not evil. Ghost boxes are not evil. And if you try and you learn the paranormal and you want to communicate with something really cool, give it a try. But make sure you're protected.
Okay, and make sure you say goodnight.
Make sure you say goodnight and goodbye. Close off that connection.
All right, this one text that comes in before we say goodnight and goodbye to you, Dave Scott, is had a Ouija board in my youth, used to ask who I would marry, how many kids I'd have, etc. Never said goodnight, though. Now I know why my life is screwed up. So
Close the door. Close the door.
Close the door. Oh, man. Thanks, Dave. It's great to see you. Thanks for joining us on the Zoom call. We love to see your face, so that's awesome. Dave
Absolutely,
Scott,
brother.
spaced.radio.com. Thanks, buddy.
You guys take care. Have a good one. Let's get to the news. The news is always changing, which is why we bring you the SOR Newswire at the back end of every show, where we get to the weird, the strange, the wacky, and sometimes Oh, let's go into weirdness. Police in L.A. said 6 people have been arrested. Why? Because they changed the Hollywood sign to read Holly Boob in what the alleged perpetrators said was a breast cancer awareness message. Well, the LAPD didn't like that, said 5 men and 1 woman climbed the hills surrounding the sign, threw a tarp bearing a giant letter B over the W, and added a dash to the final D to make it look like a second B. A few hours ago, a group attempted to vandalize the Hollywood sign. LA landmarks are precious to those here at LAPD Hollywood, and this was way, way uncool. Yes, they are arrested. There was no signs of vandalism because the sign wasn't damaged. However, they're going to go have a date in court. Moving on, a peeping, creeping Tom spying on a woman's locker room in Virginia got some comeuppance when he fell through the ceiling. Yeah, 41-year-old Brian Anthony Joe was peering into the women's change rooms at One Life Fitness from his secret perch about 10 feet above, and then the ceiling collapsed. That's never any good because Joe went crashing down onto the floor, landing on one woman, and then being held by the others until police arrived. Yeah, he is charged with 3 counts of peeping into a building, burglary, and vandalism. If you haven't heard this is kind of a weird one. Billionaire Jeff Bezos has decided to step down as CEO of Amazon, the e-commerce empire he founded 27 years ago. And you know what? He said this in a letter to his employees, the world's second richest man, handed off the duties to Andy Jassy, his assistant. And yeah, you know, I mean, hey, if you can retire with almost $1 trillion in the bank, it might be worth it. It just might be worth it, don't you think? Thought of the Dave happens every night at this time, where we ask a question on our Facebook and Twitter pages, then read your responses on the air because we love the audience participation around here. Today's Thought of the Dave is as follows. How does meditation help you in your daily life? Marty, one of our favorite veterans who listens to this show. It helps me clear out all of the disturbing noise. It allows me to concentrate on things that are important, but otherwise get sidetracked by all the distractions in life. Thank you for the clown, Marty. Alamu says, it helps me keep my personal awareness intact, meaning others aren't as able to disturb my mojo. Crystal, you can slow down the hurriedness of life, see different perspectives, and find peace to solutions. Very, very nice. Moving on. Mike, depending, it's usually me saying, mind your mediator business. Carrie Lydon. It creates a field that opens your mind to relaxation levels that aren't available during normal daytime activities with work and family. It gives you a chance to focus on yourself, your future, and your body while communicating with your universe. We got time for one more here. Serena says, I use it to distress, decompress, reconnect with my higher self and spirit team. Multi-dimensional work is where it's at. Reiki and energy healings. Thank you to everyone who hung out and took part in the Thought of the Dave. We will do it all again tomorrow on Facebook and on Twitter, so make sure you check it on out if you want to play along, and we'll read yours on the air. Thank you to Captain Shirk for the abbreviated SOR Newswire. You can find that on our website. To Shane at the Shift in Vancouver, where we went right across Canada talking about Ouija boards and connection. And, of course, to the lovely and talented Geraldine Orozco for the Spiritual You. Geraldine will be back next month. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone participating in our chat rooms tonight on YouTube, LGAB, Revolution Radio, Spreaker, Facebook, the Space Travelers Club, and on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. You were all awesome tonight. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us. Because together, my friends, say it with me, we own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo Train has docked for the night. But tomorrow, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night.